Welcome and thank you for joining this DEI training. Whether you're a leader, an aspiring leader, a hiring manager, or an HR professional, or someone who simply wants to know more about what DEI is and isn't, or who cares about creating fair and inclusive workplaces, this training's for you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are not just buzzwords. They're principles that create stronger teams, drive innovation, and ensure that opportunities are based on talent, not assumptions. This training is designed to provide a clear understanding of DEI, dispel common misconceptions, and equip you with the practical strategies to integrate inclusive leadership into your daily work. We've broken this training down into 4 sections. The first, defining DEI and why it matters. The second, debunking myths and clarifying what DEI is, what it is not. Third section will explore the impact and the risks of removing DEI in workplaces. Fourth, we'll apply DEI in leadership and learn practical ways to integrate DEI into daily decisions. And as a result, we're hoping to drive change, to empower you to lead inclusivity and create lasting impact. So let's start by breaking down what DEI actually means. There are a lot of misconceptions out there, and part of what we're going to do today is separate out fact from fiction. DEI is not about special treatment or quotas. It's about creating a workplace where everyone has a fair shot at success. So what is diversity, equity, and inclusion? DEI. Well, diversity is the presence of different perspectives, backgrounds, and experiences. Many people think of diversity only in terms of race and gender, but diversity includes cultural backgrounds, different education and life experiences, diverse thought and problem-solving approaches, neurodiversity, disabilities, and generational diversity. Imagine a company where everyone has the exact same background. They all think the same way. How much innovation do you think is really going to happen in that company? I would venture to say not much. Now, when we look at equity, equity is not about treating everyone the same, but about ensuring fair access and opportunity. Equality means giving everyone the same thing, where equity means giving people what they need to succeed. So imagine a workplace where everyone is provided the same resources, but this doesn't account for those with disabilities or even caregiving responsibilities. That's equal, but it's also not fair. Now, inclusion is about creating environments where people feel they belong and are valued. Having diverse voices at the table is not enough. Inclusion means people feel safe and encouraged to contribute. So say you hire more women in leadership, but they aren't given the same decision-making power or voice in meetings. That's diversity without inclusion. Diversity is being invited to the party, whereas inclusion is being asked to dance. Now let's look at our first case study. I'd like you to meet Sarah. She's a highly skilled project manager in a construction company. And for 5 years, Sarah consistently exceeded expectations. She's increased efficiency, saved the company money, and even mentored junior employees. When a director level position opened up, Sarah assumed she would be a top candidate. But as the selection process moved forward, she noticed something strange. The conversations about potential candidates excluded her name. When she asked why she wasn't being considered, the response was, "Well, we didn't think you'd be interested in the role since you have young kids." Well, here's the problem with that. Sarah never mentioned any hesitation about balancing family and work, and she was indeed the most qualified person for the position. The assumption about her ability and ambition was made for her, not by her. So this is why DEI matters, because it's not about forcing companies to hire someone who isn't ready for a job. It's about making sure talented employees aren't overlooked based on assumptions or bias. So I'd like you to think about this. Have you ever been in a situation where someone assumed something about you rather than asking you directly? How did it make you feel? Well, luckily, Sarah's company had DEI principles in place. She spoke up, leadership listened, and she was rightfully given the opportunity to interview. She even got the promotion. not because of DEI, but because she had earned it. DEI just ensured she wasn't left out of the conversation. Now, there can be many business cases for DEI and why it matters to everyone. Companies with diverse leadership teams are 36% more profitable than those without diversity. And teams that are diverse in thought make better decisions 87% of the time. DEI benefits all employees by creating fairer workplaces, encouraging innovation and different perspectives. It helps reduce turnover and increase job satisfaction. When DEI is removed, companies lose those advantages. This leads to fewer protections for employees, reduced job satisfaction, and a decline in overall company performance. So let's take a little quiz. Which of the following is the best definition of equity in DEI? A, giving everyone the same resources regardless of need. B, hiring based on quotas instead of merit. C, ensuring fair access to opportunities based on individuals' needs. D, making sure that every employee has the same outcome. The correct answer, the best definition of equity in DEI is C, ensuring fair access to opportunities based on individuals' needs. So DEI isn't about giving advantages to some at the expense of others. It's about ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to bring their full potential to the workplace. When we do that, we all succeed. What assumptions have you seen impacting hiring, promotions, or workplace inclusion throughout your career? I'd like you to start thinking about your thoughts on DEI and what it means to you. Section 2, DEI is not tokenism, breaking down the myths. By the end of this section, we'll understand why DEI is not tokenism and how it is merit-based. We'll identify common misconceptions about DEI and recognize how bias and assumptions can impact hiring, promotions, and workplace culture. We'll also look at a real-world example where DEI ensures fair opportunity. So now that we've established what DEI actually means, let's address one of the biggest myths surrounding it. The idea that DEI is about filling quotas or giving people opportunities they haven't earned. That is completely false. DEI is about ensuring fair access to opportunities based on merit, not about giving unqualified people a free pass. So let's dive into this myth and separate fact from fiction. So myth number 1, DEI means lowering the bar and hiring someone just because they check a box. Whereas the truth is, DEI means ensuring that all qualified individuals have a fair shot at opportunities. The reality? Many hiring and promotion decisions are influenced by unconscious bias, leading to qualified candidates being overlooked. DEI removes barriers so that everyone competes fairly, based on skills, experience, and potential. So going back to the last case study, a hiring manager might assume that a woman with young children wouldn't want a leadership role, even if she's the most qualified. That's bias, not merit-based decision-making. If someone earns a position through their hard work, skills, and experience, that's not DEI. That's just being fair. Myth number 2, DEI is about hiring less qualified people, and it forces companies to pick less qualified candidates over more qualified ones. Well, the truth is, DEI ensures that the best candidates are considered regardless of background. Many people don't realize just how much networking and who you know plays a role in hiring. If a company's leadership is made up of people who all look alike, think alike, and have similar backgrounds, they may unknowingly hire more of the same, even if better candidates exist. DEI expands the pool of talent and eliminates bias that often exclude great candidates from consideration. Here's a quick fact. Companies that prioritize diverse hiring increase innovation by 20% and improve employee performance by 30%. DEI is not about picking someone for their gender, race, or background. It's about making sure talented people aren't overlooked due to outdated thinking. Now imagine this. Jessica's been with her company for over 12 years. She has more experience than almost anyone else on the leadership team, and she's led successful projects, increased revenue, and has mentored dozens of employees. One day, the CEO announces his retirement. A group of board members begins discussing who will replace him, and Jessica assumes that she'll be considered. But she's not. No one even brings up her name. And when she asks why, one more board member reports to her, well, we just didn't see you as a CEO. You don't have the same leadership style as past CEOs. And this is why DEI matters, because Jessica wasn't overlooked just because she wasn't qualified. Instead, she was overlooked because she didn't fit an unwritten standard of what leadership was supposed to look like. She wasn't even given a chance to compete. DEI ensures that leadership decisions are made based on merit, skills, and achievements, not just assumptions about who should be in charge. Now, I'd like you to think about a time when you or someone you know were overlooked for an opportunity. Was it because of ability or because of an assumption someone made about you? Now, when it comes to fair hiring, companies with diverse executive teams have 36% higher profitability, and employees in inclusive workplaces are 35% more engaged and 47% less likely to leave. So, what happens when DEI is removed? Well, bias creeps back into the hiring and promotional process, and qualified candidates may be overlooked based on assumptions. These companies may also lose their creative and innovative edge. Those diverse perspectives start to become homogenized, and we start seeing more groupthink and less creativity. And this has a direct correlation to revenue. Fair hiring is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. So now, which of the following statements is true about DEI hiring? A, DEI forces companies to hire people based on quotas, not qualifications. B, DEI ensures that the best candidates are considered regardless of background. C, DEI gives unqualified people an unfair advantage over others. D, DEI only benefits certain groups of people. The truth is, DEI ensures that the best candidates are considered regardless of background. DEI is not about lowering standards. It's about removing barriers that prevent talented people from rising. When we focus on merit, skill, and achievement, we create a workplace where the best people succeed regardless of background. So think about a time in your past. Have you ever seen someone promoted or even passed over based on an assumption rather than their qualifications? How do you feel about that? Section 3, the impact of removing DEI. What happens when it's gone? By the end of this section, you'll have a greater understanding of how removing DEI programs affects workplace protections, employee rights, and business success. We'll identify who is most impacted when DEI is eliminated and recognize the long-term risks for businesses, employees, and leadership development. We'll also look at a lack of DEI and how that led to a negative outcome. So we've talked about what DEI is and isn't, but now let's talk about what happens when DEI is taken away. Many assume that removing DEI programs only impacts a small group of people, but that's not true. It has a widespread consequence for employees, businesses, and entire industries. And the recent push to eliminate DEI programs at the federal level and in private companies has far-reaching implications. When DEI is dismantled, it's not just diversity programs that disappear. Workplace protections, fair hiring, and inclusion efforts suffer too. So who is the most impacted when DEI is removed? Well, first, employees who might rely on DEI-driven workplace protections, such as those who are parents that need parental leave. Without DEI advocacy, some companies might roll back parental leave policies, disproportionately affecting working parents. And then there are those that need disability accommodations. These employees with disabilities may lose access to reasonable accommodation, making it harder for them to work effectively. And then finally, with workplace discrimination, reporting bias or unfair treatment becomes so much harder without structured DEI initiatives ensuring accountability and transparency. Secondly, businesses that need talent, innovation, and growth really need DEI in place because removing DEI limits talent pools and makes hiring less inclusive, leading to missed opportunities for growth and innovation. Companies with strong DEI programs see 19% higher innovation revenue. Number three, leadership and employee engagement. Mentorship and sponsorship programs may shrink, making it harder for underrepresented employees to advance. And employees will then feel less valued and heard, which can lead to higher turnover rates. Employees in non inclusive workplaces are 47% more likely to leave. DEI doesn't just support diverse employees, it ensures fair access and opportunities for all employees. Imagine you've worked at a company for over a decade. You've seen progress, more diverse hiring, leadership that values diverse perspectives, and policies that support working parents, employees with disabilities, and even mentorship programs that help people advance. Then new leadership decides to remove DEI programs. They say it's just not needed anymore. Well, what happens next? Well, you start to notice that leadership teams start looking the same again. The company's family leave programs quietly reduced. Employees start to leave. Many of them high performing individuals from diverse backgrounds. Morale drops, and the company struggles to attract new talent. Within 2 years, turnover spikes, innovation slows, and employee satisfaction plummets. The company, once thriving, is now struggling with retention, lawsuits, and negative press. This is not just a hypothetical scenario. In fact, in 2023, over 600 U.S. companies eliminated or reduced DEI efforts. Many faced internal backlash, higher turnover, and reputational damage. Now, have you ever worked at a company that felt less inclusive or fair? What was the impact on morale and productivity for yourself and for your team and throughout the organization? Because there are some business risks of eliminating DEI. Companies that eliminate DEI see higher turnover rates due to employees feeling undervalued. There may be more lawsuits and compliance issues related to discrimination and workplace protections. And finally, lower innovation and market competitiveness from a lack of diverse perspectives. Companies that maintain strong DEI policies experience higher retention because employees want to stay longer. These companies have a stronger reputation because there's better employer branding and there's greater financial success because that higher creativity and innovation tie into higher revenue. Eliminating DEI isn't about cost cutting. It's about taking away tools that make companies stronger and employees more engaged. So what's one major risk of removing DEI programs? A, increased hiring and promotions. B, higher employee retention and morale. C, more lawsuits and compliance issues. Or D, stronger innovation and business growth. Yes, the major risk of removing DEI is C, more lawsuits and compliance issues. Because DEI is not about special treatment. It's about ensuring that everyone has access to the same opportunities. When DEI is removed, companies lose more than a program. They lose talent, innovation, and employee trust. So, what workplace policies have you seen change over time or throughout your career? How did they impact employees and culture? Section 4, Building DEI into Everyday Leadership, What You Can Do. By the end of this section, you'll have an understanding of how DEI is a daily leadership practice, not just a program. Learn actionable steps to integrate DEI principles into hiring, decision making, and team culture. We're going to recognize that everyone, regardless of title, plays a role in fostering inclusion. And then we'll look at how these real world examples of small actions can lead to big change. So now that we've discussed the risks of removing DEI, let's focus on solutions. The good news is that DEI doesn't need a program to thrive. It needs people just like you who are willing to lead with fairness, awareness, and inclusivity. The reality is DEI isn't just the responsibility of HR or executives or a DEI department. It's a leadership mindset that each of us, regardless of role, and I'd like you to keep in mind that leader isn't brought with a title. Regardless of our role, regardless of our title, we are all leaders. Someone's looking up to us. Someone is going to emulate our behaviors. So, regardless of your role, you can incorporate these into your daily work. So, how do we do that? Let's break this down. Here are 3 ways to integrate DEI into leadership. We can start with inclusive hiring and advancement, because if we challenge unconscious bias in hiring and promotion decisions, we can level the playing field. So if a hiring manager only considers candidates from the same background as current leaders, we can ask, are we overlooking equally qualified candidates? What skills and perspectives are missing from our team? So our action step, something that we can do is advocate for structured interviews with standardized evaluation criteria. That helps us reduce bias. Now, second, one of those everyday leadership behaviors that any of us can use is to amplify all voices in meetings. If someone interrupts a colleague, redirect the conversation back to that person that was interrupted. Encourage different viewpoints instead of defaulting to the loudest person, the person who has all of the ideas, and encourage others to be a part of that conversation. Studies show that women's ideas are more likely to be ignored in meetings until a man repeats them. So our action step here is, next time a team member's idea gets overlooked, say, hey, I really like what Mary said earlier. Let's go back to that. And then finally, we want to create a culture of belonging. So small actions can make a big impact on inclusion. Invite new employees to coffee or virtual chat. Be mindful of how workplace traditions impact different groups. For example, the company might have happy hours, but that doesn't consider non-drinkers. And then it's very important for us to learn to pronounce our colleagues' names correctly. A simple but powerful act of inclusion is just saying their name right. So here's your action step. Identify one way that you can make someone feel more included this week. DEI isn't a program. It's how we interact, it's how we hire, and it's how we lead with impact every day. Now imagine you're hiring for a leadership position and you have 2 final candidates, Alex and Jordan. Both are qualified, but Alex reminds you of yourself. Same background, same career path, same leadership style. It feels easy to picture Alex in this role. But then a colleague asks you, are we picking Alex because they're the best fit or because they're the most familiar? And this question sparks a discussion amongst the group. And when the team revisits the decision using structured evaluation criteria, they realize that Jordan actually brings a more diverse skill set and better aligns with the company's future goals. So it's easy to default to the familiar when making decisions, but DEI encourages us to pause, reflect, and ensure decisions are based on merit, not comfort. Our action step here is when we're making key decisions, we need to ask, am I considering all perspectives or just the ones that feel more familiar? DEI makes hiring and promotions more intentional, and that leads to stronger, more innovative teams because there's an impact of small, consistent actions. Employees who feel included are 3 times more likely to be engaged at work. And companies that foster a culture of belonging see a 56% increase in job performance. What happens when leaders commit to everyday DEI behaviors? Well, employees feel valued, respected, and heard. Teams become more innovative and collaborative, and the workplace becomes a space where everyone has an opportunity to succeed. DEI doesn't require a big initiative. It starts with small, daily actions that make a workplace more fair, inclusive, and welcoming for all. So, which of the following is an example of everyday leadership behavior? A, only hiring people who fit the culture without evaluating different perspectives. B, speaking up when a colleague's idea is ignored in a meeting. C, assuming that DEI is only the responsibility of HR. Or D, promoting people based on familiarity rather than skills. Of course, speaking up when a colleague's idea is ignored in a meeting is an example of how we can shift what's happening through a DEI leadership behavior. The goal here is for everyone to feel valued, seen, heard, and respected. DEI is not about big initiatives or forced programs. It's about everyday leadership choices. Whether you're hiring, leading a team, or simply interacting with colleagues, you have the power to make inclusion a reality. Dr. Seuss says, "To the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world." What's one simple way you've seen someone create a culture of inclusion in your workplace, either in your current workplace or in a past workplace? Now let's think of some things that you can do to take steps towards building a more inclusive workspace. First, identify one small change that you can make this week to foster inclusion. Second, encourage conversations about fairness, inclusion, and leadership in your team. And 3, remember, DEI is leadership in action. And I'd like to thank you for taking the time today to learn more about DEI and your role in continuing the DEI efforts in not only our workplaces, but in society. If you have any further questions, please reach out to me at drjolene@drjolenechurch.com. Thank you.